welcome to episode number 9 of the Unofficial Official Story. I am Jennifer, the fearless investigator.
Yo, 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 I'm Koji, the so-called chief of the show.
And last, and probably least as well, I'm Dwayne, the class clown.
This is a podcast where we tell you the official story. We're going to take a look at the paranormal, conspiracies, unexplained phenomena, cryptids, and even true crime.
And in this episode, we're asking the question, did blues legend Robert Johnson make a deal with the devil?
And by the end, we'll tell you what really maybe happened.
But first, we brought on a guest today. We have comedian Ian Harris.
Woo! Ian Harris is a writer, director, comedian, and editor. And at the age of 28, Ian wrote, produced, and directed his first feature film, It Burns When I Laugh, in 8 days on 16 millimeter film for $27,000. I am super impressed. I need to see this film.
No, you don't. Nobody gets to see that film.
His films have played in festivals worldwide, receiving numerous awards and accolades. He has enjoyed much success as a stand-up comedian with many TV appearances, including Jimmy Kimmel Live, Comedy Central, and 2 one-hour TV specials. He currently lives in Los Angeles with his wife and daughter, where he also owns an MMA gym called Fight Science MMA. How are you, Ian?
Good. Thanks for having me.
One thing I didn't mention in your bio was your podcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Oh, yeah, which you guys were on this last week. Yeah, so it's called Critical and Thinking, which is oddly enough named after my first comedy special. It's also called Critical and Thinking. And it's myself and comedian Ty Barnett. It's now a political podcast. It wasn't meant to be a political podcast. It started out as like interviews, and it was supposed to be about critical thinking and things like that, and a comedy podcast. And then, anyone who's ever seen my act, all I talk about is I debunk things. Like, I'm a skeptic. So everything I do is like I've got 3 hours of material that's Bigfoot, ghosts, God, Christianity, Islam, whatever belief that we believe in on some sort of, I hate the word debunking, but that's what it is. So that was kind of what we started out doing. And then we started right in the middle of Trumpism. So it was like every week we were like, okay, we can't ignore what he said today. And then we started getting followers because they were like, oh, whoa, this is interesting. And then every week we're like, we're not going to talk about politics, but did you see what this guy did today? And then it got to where all we did was talk about politics. And now people tune in. Every now and then we do something that's not about politics, and all we get is, how come you guys aren't talking about what happened today? How come you aren't talking about what's going on at the border? We still try to keep it funny.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you became the skeptic?
Comedy was always like one of the things I wanted to do. It was like when I moved down to LA from the Bay Area in 92, and I had written a screenplay. I was 21 and I had a screenplay optioned. And we moved down here with my buddy, and we were going to write and direct, and that was our thing. And then always wanted to do stand-up. I could do impressions and all this kind of stuff, and it was my goal to do stand-up. And got into doing it immediately when I moved down here. And then in a few years, I was making a living at it, moved back to the Bay Area. And then, I was doing well, made this movie, It Burns When I Laugh, moved back down here in 2000, and was kind of in and out, like doing comedy and whatever, but making a living as a comic. And then I had a kid in 2005, and I quit comedy completely. I had been up for Mad TV 3 years in a row to producers, didn't get it. I was supposed to meet Lorne Michaels and take over after Jimmy Fallon left on SNL, like to be like the impression guy. And that didn't happen. So I said, screw it. I got a kid. I'm not going to be on the road anymore. I'm going to dedicate my time to my gym and making films and go back to writing. So I quit for like 6 years. And I've always been a skeptic and an atheist forever. My mom was a psychic. My dad was an atheist. So I saw it from both sides, like the kind of irrational stuff and the woo-y stuff. And then, my dad being fairly rational. I was always a skeptic, but I didn't know that's what it was called until later on. And then in 2011, I turned 40. I was talking to my daughter was 5 or 6, and she'd never seen me do comedy. And she didn't think of me as a comic because she'd never known me to do comedy. And all my friends would be like, oh, you're a comedian. She's like, what are you talking about? So I took her to an open mic at a coffee shop in Culver City, and I did a set and blew her away because it's all open micers.
Right.
So I did 5 minutes and just murdered this place. And my daughter was like, oh, what is this? So I decided I'm going to get back on stage and do what I like. And since I didn't need to make a living doing it, I just got back on stage and just started riffing about shit that I thought was funny. Like, oh, man, ghosts. Oh, you people believe this crazy stuff? That's all I did. Because I'm like, who cares if nobody books me? Like, I don't need to make a living at it. I'm doing this for me. And the weirdest thing is within like a year, I had like an hour of like my best written material ever. And I had this deal to do this thing on SiriusXM for the end of the world, the Mayan apocalypse. My friend offered to film it. And so we shot it and sold it. After 20 years in comedy, I did my first special after a year back. And ever since then, I've been the most prolific and the best I've done in general has been just because I love doing it.
I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead to this topic, but that almost parallels Robert Johnson's journey. Like he went away for a year
Yes.
and he came back dope as hell.
Exactly.
Oh, so did you make a deal with the devil is the question, right?
It was a bad deal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in a deal with the devil's assistant. I'm like, look, I'm going to go away for 6 years. And when I come back, I want to be slightly better than I was and make maybe a little bit more money. It's like, we can do that. Do I need to get my soul? He goes, no, but buy me lunch.
All right, what do you guys think? Should we get into this?
Yep, let's do it.
Yep. All right. So one of the things we all watched to give us deep background on the subject was a documentary on Netflix called Remastered Devil at the Crossroads. We'll put a link in our show notes and we're going to give you guys some facts.
Robert Johnson was born on May 8th, 1911 in Hazelhurst, Mississippi. Little is known about his father, but he and his mother mainly lived in Robbinsville, Mississippi. Not a ton is known about Johnson, which is one of the reasons his legend has taken on a life of its own. We know that he first played the Jew's harp and harmonica before the guitar. He's often considered one of the greatest blues musicians who has influenced music and musicians ever since. These include, but are not limited to, Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, and more. There are about 40 original Johnson recordings left. Some of the most famous are Me and the Devil Blues, Hellhound on My Trail, Sweet Home Chicago. He died on August 6, 1938 in Greenwood, Mississippi from poisoned whiskey in a juke joint. It is assumed a jealous lover, the owner of the juke joint, poisoned him after sleeping with that guy's wife.
That's crazy. That's his story, but it's not the story we want to talk about today. The question is, did Robert Johnson make a deal with the devil? Johnson seemed to always have played music, but he was never known to be great. But when he met Virginia Travis, who was very religious, he was willing to give up what her family called his devil music. People were really, really religious back then.
The conservatives have not changed.
Well, you know, it's crazy. My grandma raised me, and that persisted a long time. Like my grandma used to talk about like Sam Cooke, Ray Charles, even Aretha Franklin doing secular music, and how like that was a big deal. When you switched over and did secular, it was like not acceptable. Even in the, you skip ahead 50s, 60s, that was just like, it was a big deal when you switched over.
Wait, how did your grandma feel about Tupac?
I don't think she ever knew who Tupac was. I think she passed away before that. Well, it's weird because everything the fears that they had seemed to have come to pass in a sense. But music was always going to reflect what was going on, so I think it couldn't be stopped. But certainly like the church influence was really, really big on Black people, which I think adds to the legend thing. We could talk about that too.
Well, also, don't you think the white people not wanting Black people to be mainstream was probably a big influence on that as well, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
That has to be like, well, that's the devil's music. I mean, even when like Elvis came out, like white people didn't like him because he was doing colored moves. And right, I mean, that was kind of the thing. Right. It's like, we can't like this guy because he's doing something that Black people do. Like that was kind of the thing.
Well, it's weird. Like you sexualize a people and then you sexualize them and then you go ahead and vilify that sexualization that you put on them to begin with, you know what I mean? And I think the thing too is that this is like not even a generation after slavery. So basically you serve a white God and it's sort of built in that if you get anything good happen to you or anything that's out of the norm is evil. And as a slave, you probably think, what did I do to deserve this? So you're kind of born with a bit of shame and a little bit of like just questioning what's going on. So I think everyone's downtrodden. So anything that goes against that, it's got to be evil. So anyway, Johnson and Virginia married. She quickly got pregnant. So quickly, I wonder if she was already pregnant. Anyway, I don't know about that though. 2 weeks before she was to give birth, she went to stay with her grandma. During these last 2 weeks, Johnson left their farm to play music for what must have felt to Johnson like the last time.
Do you think Virginia knew about that he was going to take these last 2 weeks? Or do you think he just did it on his own?
I feel like she knew, but her family wouldn't approve. So he was like, this is it. You know what I mean? It's like when people sell drugs and they're like, you know what? I'm giving this up. I've got one more packet of drugs to sell, whatever drug that is. And then boom, you get arrested, right? It's always the last score that messes you up.
When I'm bored, I drive Lyft. And it always happens. The best ride is always the last ride.
That's exactly right. That's Murphy's Law in a sense. And I want everyone listening to understand, this is a little bit of an aside. Murphy's Law is whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And my personal belief is Murphy's Law is strongest in Los Angeles. So before you come here, understand we got Murphy for your ass out here. Okay? So just
Let me also point out from the old files of skepticism and old hack material.
Right.
It's always the last place you look because you stop looking after you find it.
Oh, there you go.
Like the keys, right? When they go, why are the
Right.
keys always in the last place you look? Because you stop looking after you find your keys, right? So
Right.
that's also part of it. It's like in jiu-jitsu, they always go, one more roll. And that's always when you break something. It's like, well, yeah, there might have been another roll after that, but you freaking broke something.
Interesting. From now on, after I find my keys, I'm going to keep looking. How about that,
Exactly.
Ian?
Yeah, exactly. In your face.
So Johnson goes to do this final gig and, then just settle down, be a family man. At the time, he was not even really a great guitarist. However, when Johnson visited Virginia, when he went to see his wife and kid, he found that both his wife and the baby had died during childbirth. Virginia's family blamed him and his devil's music for the tragedy, which is really sad. But without science, you have to blame something, right? This was when Johnson decided to dedicate his life to music. He played on the street corners and juke joints. However, one problem, he was considered a second-rate musician. He wasn't good yet. Delta blues legend Son House remembers that Johnson was a decent harmonica player, but a terrible guitarist. He often had to chase Johnson away from the guitars because he and the other more established musicians were worried that Johnson would break their strings. He even said, "He come in here playing that noise. Go get that boy from them guitars. He liable." Anyway, that's my old black voice.
I can never do that accent.
So that's when Johnson disappeared for a year. He just went underground, just in the cut.
According to legend, under the cover of moonlight, Johnson went to the crossroads, got on his knees, and made a deal with the devil, his soul, for the ability to play the guitar like a god.
A lot of different places believe that they're the location of this. Yeah, the actual crossroads that Johnson went to. So there's like a couple places in Mississippi that claim to be the ones, and you could go visit them and you go to these different crossroads.
Wow.
I thought that was really fascinating. Because I actually wrote what I thought the crossroads was because I found this place that said they were. And then I found another place that said they were. And I was like, okay, neither of these places. Nobody really knows where he went.
And how many of them are like, look, our roads crossed. What more do you need?
That's exactly what it was.
The roads that crossed, come on.
In Mississippi,
what more do
right?
you
In
want?
Mississippi. So.
Johnson returned after being missing for about a year. Son House allegedly said to Johnson, "Boy, now where are you going with that thing? To noise somebody to death again?"
Let's get Dwayne to do that.
Yes, please.
Read the first line.
Okay. Okay. Son House allegedly said to Johnson,
"Boy, now where you going with that thing? You gonna noise somebody to death again?"
noise somebody, noising people up. That was new for me. I love it. So Johnson began to play a 7-stringed guitar that no one had ever seen before. And suddenly he was not just good at it, but he had become one of the greatest anyone had ever heard, like maybe ever. House allegedly said this about Johnson's new abilities. He sold his soul to the devil to play like that.
Why couldn't God give it to him?
Right.
Why couldn't he sell his soul to God?
Well, especially if he had a 7-string. It's not like he had 3 6-string guitars.
Right. And seven is a godly number.
Seven is a godly number.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
And I mean, let's be honest, you can get pretty good at something in a year if you dedicate all your time to it. And you don't have a wife around anymore. You're off in the middle of somewhere, sitting in a field near crossroads.
Absolutely. But that's the thing. It's where he played. I don't know if we talk about that, but it's where he played that added to the legend. Because he played in a graveyard.
Johnson isn't the only blues legend with a mysterious backstory. Before Johnson, Tommy Johnson, who's not related to Robert Johnson, also allegedly made a deal with the devil. What most people believe probably happened isn't nearly as exciting. It is generally accepted that Johnson returned to Hazelhurst, Mississippi, and under the tutelage of local guitar legend Zimmerman, they spent the year playing in the cemetery where it got really good. By the way, these names are awesome.
There you go. That's why it's the devil. Zimmerman. He's Jewish. A Jewish guy taught him how to play guitar. A Jewish guy taught a black guy how to play a guitar back in the 20s.
It was actually a black guy. Shh. But it begs a stronger question was, did Jewish people own slaves? I didn't think they were really heavy in that game. At least not, maybe in the Egyptian era.
Right.
Then they were the slaves. I don't know.
Well, maybe the guy just changed his name. Like, he's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just going to be called Zimmerman from now on. But I mean, look, if you're in Mississippi and you're a KKK guy in the 20s or whatever, you hear that Zimmerman
Right.
is teaching the black guy. You're not really concerned with anything other than you heard
But that's the thing. He changed his name, but then he didn't realize he didn't pick a better name,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
He was like, no one's going to mess with me when I'm Zimmerman.
First name was he changed his name to Shlomo.
Right. One last fact about Johnson that we found interesting. He is one of the original members of the 27 Club, a macabre, or if you're in the UK, macabre group of musicians who died at the age of 27. Other than Johnson, other names include Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse. I looked up Sam Cooke, but he died at 33, same age as Jesus.
Yeah, you know what the number is for comedians? 32.
Ooh.
Really?
3 or 4 or 5 comics that died at 32.
I made the cut. So the question that must be asked, did they also make a deal with the devil? 2 plus 7 is 9. 9 upside down is 6.
Uh-oh.
Whoa.
I think you just read off 6 names of people that died.
When we come back, we're going to put our minds together and figure out what really maybe happened. People always ask us how they can start a podcast. And one of the first things we tell people is that they should host their show on Buzzsprout, like we do.
Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or just think it would be fun to have your own talk show, podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online.
Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories within minutes of finishing your recording.
Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you. You'll get a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan. And most importantly, you'll be helping support our show. Now that we've discussed the facts, let's workshop our ideas.
This story is intriguing. I watched this documentary maybe 2 years ago, actually, and I went on a deep dive. I was listening to his music. I think we must note that when we say he was a great guitarist, he almost created the blues genre as we know it, which also, you speed it up, he basically created rock music. So we have to be super clear because he played the guitar as if 2 guitars were playing. And that's very common now, but that wasn't a thing back then. Like to play like a piano, you got the chords and you got the notes. People didn't do that on the guitar, but he has really long fingers. So I really think he maybe just practiced a lot because he played the harmonica too. And he just had a musician's ear. But the fact that it led to rock and roll and the fact that he played in the guitar is just bananas. So here's what I think really happened, kind of. And let me just say one thing. I don't like when movies do this, but I'm going to do it right now just to show you how much I don't like when movies do this. So if you have any issue with what I say, then see Terminator, see Harry Potter, all those movies. So here's what I think happened. I think Bill and Ted were in search of the ultimate guitar, the ultimate song. They were trying to when Bill and Ted were traveling, even though we think of that movie as a fictional movie, it's based on some real guys, okay? So, okay. So Bill and Ted traveled back in time and they had, electric guitars. They had all these modern things and they just appeared because they wanted to meet Robert Johnson. They appeared at this graveyard and he was still a bad guitarist. He was just in the graveyard being mediocre. And they told him how to really rock out. They told him how to just shred on the guitar. And then they went back to the future. And so then with that knowledge, he became great. So basically, someone came back from the past, Bill and Ted, and taught Robert Johnson how to play guitar. That's my story.
This is very similar to Back to the Future.
That's right. Yeah. He taught, who was it? It was...
No, he went back and taught Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry, yes, Chuck Berry.
Yeah, it was Marvin Berry. Marvin Berry.
Right. And one other thing, Robert Johnson had no idea who these 2 guys were. So when people asked him, how'd you get so good? He was like, I sold my soul to the devil. You would think that if you're in a graveyard and 2 guys come out of nowhere and they're like, totally tubular. Yeah. He's like, what in the devil is this? So
you're like, let's go, Zimmerman. Wait. That's funny, Dwayne.
That's good.
So he told people he sold his soul to the devil, but it was just Bill and Ted.
My theory is that, yes, he did sell his soul to the devil, but it was a double cross. So the deal that Robert Johnson actually wanted was to bring back his wife and his child. And so he had to play the guitar for 1 year or until he died, basically. But the devil double crossed him because what the devil had this long game. What he really wanted to do is destroy the world through the music of rap, country, hip hop, rock and roll, all of it, jazz, because this is the beginning of the devil's music. It gets just quote worse as we get on.
Right. So the devil had Lil Nas X written down somewhere on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Or what is the mumble rap? He
Right.
mumble rap was like the thing that he knew was going to just destroy us. So
Right.
that was the long game. And he used Robert Johnson as the beginning of that. So there was a deal. He did make a deal with the devil. It just wasn't the deal that we think he made. Right.
I
The deal
see.
he actually made was something a little bit more sweet. He wanted to bring back his child and his wife because that ruined his life, obviously.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Wow.
Jennifer?
My theory is that he actually met with the Illuminati. So that's who the devil was. And the reason is because there's that like theory that Katy Perry and like Beyonce and people that have skyrocketing fame and skills and things like that are connected to the Illuminati. And then Jamie Foxx supposedly is part of the Illuminati.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z. And I have a girlfriend that was like sleeping with Jamie Foxx at one point, and I don't know if she was lying. He actually said to her once, if you want to know how to get into the Illuminati, ask me. But I don't know. I swear I believe it.
Maybe that's what he calls his bedroom.
I don't know.
We call this the Illuminati.
You sure he didn't say Illuminati and it just sounded like Illuminati?
Or maybe he's quoting Tupac's on Illuminati.
There's something here. So that's what I think is that he did make a deal, but it was with actual human beings that live here that are part of a secret society, and they're the Illuminati.
Why did they choose him?
That's a good question.
It's a conspiracy. Quit asking questions.
Right. Why did they choose the Jay-Z and the Jamie Foxxes? But they're all very talented.
You have to be talented. So he got to a level where they were like, you're talented enough. We're going to make your dreams come true.
Yeah.
Because he still had to get a record deal.
Right.
You know, the reason why Mick Jagger picked up a guitar years later was because he heard Robert Johnson play. You know what I mean? Not exactly that, but that he inspired people for years to come. So I like this.
Yeah, they're behind big money stuff. So maybe they're behind the record deal that came out later. And somebody saw him playing at one of those juke joints or something with the long fingers.
My favorite part of this so far is the Jamie Foxx part.
Funny story, right?
If I was ever really famous and I could just hook up with girls, I'm just going to tell him, just say that out of the blue.
But the question becomes then, did he say that before he hooked up with her or after? Because before he was just trying to hook up with her. After she put that thing on him and he didn't know what he was saying anymore. He was just...
I remember she said she was on his couch when he said it to her. So that must have been like right before, or right after. Yeah. So.
Right.
But yeah, it's like kind of a legendary story because my other friends believe her too. So who knows?
You know, I don't know your friend, but it's weird because we always go back to the DB Cooper thing. And what that proves is that people will make up stuff. So it's hard to say. Yeah, it's hard to say.
Well, mine actually kind of encompasses all yours. Plus, it goes into what other like QAnon and crazy conspiracies have a little bit with. But I have a couple stories I have to really quick tell that give you the evidence for mine. So first off, I was an editor. Martin Scorsese came in and my boss told me, he said, this morning, Marty Scorsese and his editor are going to be in Bay 1 or whatever. Nobody bug him. They're going to come in the morning and they're going to do some editing. He's working on a documentary on the blues. So I was there early in the morning working on my movie. And the guy came in, I showed him where to go, set him up. And I said, hey, our Marty wasn't in yet. He started editing some stuff. I'm a big Robert Johnson fan. I had the 2 CD box of his stuff back when CDs were a thing. And the guy was editing and he pulled up his project and he was editing a section on Robert Johnson. I said, oh, I'm a big Robert Johnson fan. He goes, oh man, I love this section. He goes, I can't believe I left my music. He goes, I want to cut it, but I don't have any Robert Johnson loaded in. I said, well, I've got the CDs in my car. He goes, really? I said, yeah. So I ran down and I got a CD and we loaded some Robert Johnson music into the Avid so that he could do some editing. And Marty came in and I had to get out of the room. Marty's here, get the hell out of the room. So I left. A few hours later, I came back. I said, hey, where I forgot the guy's name, John or whatever his name was. Oh, him and Marty left. So I said, oh, did they leave my CD? We didn't see any CD. I went back in. My CD was gone. So Martin Scorsese stole my Robert Johnson CD. Okay. Now let's go back a few years. There was a movie about Robert Johnson. It was based on Robert Johnson called Crossroads. Who played Robert Johnson in that movie? Ralph Macchio.
He played Robert Johnson?
It's inspired by that.
Unless it was Devil Went Down to Georgia, he would have been Johnny. But go ahead, yeah.
It wasn't exactly about Robert Johnson. It was modern days. It was inspired by that. It was called Crossroads. He learned from a black blues musician, sold it to the devil. But a white guy this is the whitewashing that we keep seeing. A white guy had to play the most famous black blues musician in history. Who do we get? Well, Ralph Macchio's available as soon as he's done playing Harriet Tubman and Bruce Lee.
Right.
Let's see if we can get him to play Robert Johnson, which makes me think, especially with this new information that I found out about this Zimmerman character, there's 2 contracts in the world that are stronger than a deal with the devil: a recording contract and a film contract. Try to get out of one of those 2. All right. It's way harder. I think this Zimmerman guy was actually, maybe he was in disguise, but I think he was actually a movie executive. And I think he made a deal with a movie executive. And the idea was to build this guy up to be so good that later on, they'd have a whole series of music, the Rolling Stones, and maybe even Dwayne, maybe even the movie you talked about, Bill and Ted, maybe that, Ralph Macchio, all so that they could build up white people based on this black guy's talent. And Zimmerman was actually, again, going back to the Jews run everything.
Right.
They run the entertainment industry. So, and maybe Zimmerman was in blackface. I don't know. I'm just saying that
Right.
I think that it all comes back to the industry's racist trying to build up white people in the future so that white people can make a lot of money playing on the backs of black people.
What I love about that is I've heard like some people theorize that rap music was made, like some white guys sort of like pushed us to make rap music, because not only is it sort of like what they rap about and capture the hearts and minds of young people and kind of like maybe taint them, maybe poison them with just bad thoughts, but also it's all about how do I keep selling the same catalog over and over again? Rap music basically is like, well, we're sampling. So it's like, well, who owns all the samples? It's the big record companies, the big media companies. So it's like, we made money off it already. Now we're making more and more money off it. So I really like this idea because like when I go and see a movie, it's like, I paid you, I saw the movie. Let's end it there. Okay. I'm not going to get the 25th edition DVD. I'm not going to go see Star Wars on ice. Okay.
Starring Sherman Hemsley.
Right. I'm not going to see the play. You got my $10 or $15. Let's end it there. But it's all about reselling. That's why there's a Spider-Man movie every 2 years. So what I like about this is that plants that first seed, your theory, Ian.
Yes.
It's like, this guy's going to get big and we're going to eat off this forever.
Oh my God.
100 years.
That's very deep. That's a deep one. All right, guys. So we're at that point where we decide which story is the correct story. And we have to choose wisely, of course, because this is going to be the actual unofficial official story for the rest of eternity. Ian, since you're a guest, which theory do you want to go with?
And it's okay to go with yours because we like yours. So.
Yeah, we like yours. So,
The secular guy in me, or the rational guy in me wants to go, it's none of them. This motherfucker learned to play guitar and dude was good. And when I listen to him, I go, yeah, he's good, but I don't think of him as like, Stanley Jordan or so. Like, I'm like, he was good, but I'm like, he was just better than he was before.
But he wasn't only good, he was transformative. No one did that before him. So even if he's not the greatest, it was a leap.
Yeah.
It was a leap in progress. You know what I'm saying? A paradigm shift, if you will.
Yeah.
Sort of like Tupac.
Right.
I'm going to have to defer because I'm like, I just want to give the guy credit for being a badass musician.
Right.
Which wasn't one of the theories.
Dwayne, what do you think?
Wow. Do we want to go with that he practiced? I mean, come on.
I kind of like that though.
I do, but I like, even if it was tongue in cheek, I like Ian's theory that it was a record exec. Also, it incorporates Jennifer's theory because that record exec could have been in the Illuminati as well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And then it means that he did actually get that good.
Right. But I like Koji's in the sense that this guy is tortured. He's playing this great music. Can you just picture a guy with a guy in a juke joint and he's just wailing away. People are like, this is amazing. And he's just sad. And he looks over and the devil's just over in the corner looking at him like, you're never getting your wife and kids back. Can you imagine being so sad while everyone else is so happy that you're playing?
Yeah, like all the people that died at 27,
Right.
They all are just really sad.
I like the record exec thing because maybe he was in the Illuminati as well,
We have to decide. What do you guys want?
I like the record exec thing too.
Well, because too, the technology, because see, before, like if you go back 5,000 years, people just had pictures, literally just drawings on a wall. And that's how you captured the hearts and minds. So this is like the beginning of recording. So they got in early. They're like, we need to get in early and really control this way it's going to go.
It's all encompassing here. It's really everybody's theories in one.
Right. Well, not the Bill and Ted.
well, except for Bill and Ted is a movie. Come on.
Right. That's true. Yes.
They knew, see what happened, Dwayne, is they knew that you were going to have that theory.
Right.
So they said, and then we'll make this movie and it'll make it even, well, maybe Bill and Ted were real and they went back in history.
This is it. We have done the work for you, unofficial, official story listeners. We have dived deep and this is it. It's a Zimmerman exec that foresaw the gold mine of the recording industry and that was coming. Yeah. Blues, jazz, hip hop, country,
rock and roll. Absolutely.
And all the subsequent movies.
And that is the official story. So let's take another break. Yes. And we're going to return and we'll make our own deals with the devil.
Hypothetically.
We can use your help. We aren't on a big network and we don't have big backers. We aren't getting paid. Wait, we're not getting paid? Yeah, that's right. That's why we need your help. So please consider supporting us on Patreon. Any amount helps us pay for the show. We are planning on having exclusive content for our supporters, so stay tuned. Okay, this month we're going to come up with our own deals with the devil. Koji, tell us what deal you would make with the devil for your soul.
The first thing that came to mind was something about making a movie with me and making it a huge movie. But then I started really thinking about it. I want to make a deal for my son. I really want to see my son make the major leagues. So my deal would be that my son would make the major leagues for my soul. The caveat is I want to be alive. I want to be there.
That's solid. Hypothetically, though, alive could mean like you're a vegetable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's very tricky.
I need you in my corner when we're doing negotiations, Dwayne.
Right.
I need to be conscious. Hey, Jennifer, what kind of deal would you make?
I love it. Yeah, I also thought about a couple different things, but I feel like what I would ask for is I want to be a billionaire, supposedly like more money, more problems. But I feel like I can just imagine my life. Like if I had millions and millions of dollars, I feel like everything would be comfortable. I would have a personal trainer. I would have a chef. I would have multiple nannies. I would get to take my friends on vacations like every month. And I would be able to fund our podcast. I would be able to fund my movies. I would be able to like have all the dermatological treatments that I need forever. I could just like not even work and I could just be on vacation the rest of my life. So I don't know. I just want money.
You could make a deal with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah. Also, that deal you can make with just an old dude who's about to die, who's rich.
For the old dude, you have to do work though. You can't just,
Yeah.
It's not much work.
I've tried. I've been on 2 dates with 2 different billionaires that I will not name because they're known.
That's outrageous.
It was too much work, Dwayne.
To even be in the presence of billionaires.
Yes!
I've been in the presence of a billionaire, I think once. In Dubai. It was very uncomfortable because, he could just erase you.
It's kind of mind-boggling. And yeah, the 2 billionaires that I've went on dates with were very, very, very just, I don't know. I've just never met anyone like them. They just had very poor social skills and
Get out of here.
but were extremely smart. And they had no sense of fashion or style.
You dated both Elon Musk and Bill Gates?
Don't answer.
I want to know what that app is called.
Right.
It's actually my family friend. She's a matchmaker for the Silicon Valley millionaires and billionaires. That's how I met her.
Wow, that's outrageous.
Yeah. And I went on dates with some millionaires too. But anyway, my point is yeah, I would rather make a deal with the devil than have to fake love with a billionaire.
Dwayne, what's yours?
I don't want to not do the exercise. Okay. Once again, hypothetically speaking, my deal would be that he or she, whoever the devil is,
The devil could be they. Let's not be gender about this.
right. It could be they. Yeah. They would have to, the deal would be they snap a finger. Everyone in the whole world knows they exist. Everyone knows the devil exists. Everyone knows all of his tricks and everyone loves whatever ultimate goodness is. And then I'm not around. Now, if he's unwilling or they're unwilling to do that, because they would basically be putting themselves out of business, right? And everyone knows it for eternity. For eternity, everyone knows all your tricks and everyone sides with goodness. If you do that, fine. I walk away. They make a statue out of me. You know what I mean? They name a day after me, whatever. If you're not going to do that, then I get like 4 long-running sitcoms, a talk show, and a movie deal.
That is so funny, Dwayne, because yours and mine are almost exactly the same. And at the exact same time, the opposite. I'll make a deal with the devil that he comes out and admits to everybody that he doesn't exist.
Oh, I see.
But actually, my second one that I think I would like to make a deal with the devil that I get to become the devil.
Ooh.
Therefore, my deal and everybody else's are null and void.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It is similar. We have a similar, yeah.
But actually, caveat, a lot of people don't know this. I have to admit that unfortunately you guys are all in trouble because I am the devil. At least that's what I'm told a lot after seeing my comedy.
Right.
You all are screwed. Those deals are real. There's no hypothetical. Sorry, Dwayne.
Right.
But enjoy your money, everybody.
Yes. And thank you, Ian, for coming on with us. Please tell us where people can follow you.
Well, my website, skepticcomedian.com, or any social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything is at Comediocre. So it's comedy and mediocre into a portmanteau. Comediocre.
Tell us again about your podcast.
Critical and Thinking Podcast with Ty Barnett and Ian Harris. It's every Thursday at noon on Facebook. So you can go to facebook.com/critical and thinking and like the page and you'll get a notification. But yeah, we go every Thursday at noon live, and then it's uploaded on all the podcast purveyors on Monday night, like iTunes and Stitcher and all that sort of stuff.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for listening. There are a million podcasts out there, and we're honored that you've chosen ours to listen to.
Please check out our website, unofficialofficialstory.com, for our show notes or to hear our past episodes.
Be sure to come back next month for our Christmas episode. We're going to be answering the question, who killed John Benet Ramsey?
It was the parents.
Christmas, Santa Claus. Yeah.
Santa Claus. There you go, Santa Claus. All right, guys. Thank you.
See you guys.
Ian, thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Appreciate it.